happy about anything right now. I think this thing is playing out. I don't think that the Gulf has really changed this, that this was going to happen just the way it's happening.
Let's go to Riyadh, where I believe they're ready to start, and I want to thank Jody Allen and Stan Cloud very much for joining us this morning.
Ladies and gentlemen, today the United States Air Force and the air components of the United States Navy and Marine Corps, along with the Saudi Arabian, Kuwaiti, British, Canadian, Italian, and French Air Forces are continuing round-the-clock operations in support of Operation Desert Storm. Emphasis continues to be placed on offensive counter-air and interdiction missions. The objectives of the large-scale interdiction airstrikes continue to be the destruction of major Iraqi military complexes, the Republican Guards, airfields, air defense assets, long-range artillery and missile sites, and command and control elements. As of today, the continuous operations have raised the total count for Operation Desert Storm sorties to over 7,000. As of 6 o'clock today, our aircraft were responsible for destroying 15 Iraqi aircraft in air-to-air combat, of which 10 were MiG-29 Fulcrums, 4 were F-1 Mirages, and we believe the 15th aircraft to be a MiG-23 Flogger. Of this total, 5 have been shot down today. As of today, the United States has incurred 8 aircraft losses due to enemy fire. The Navy has lost 1 FA-18 and 2 A-6Es. The Marine Corps, 1 OV-10, and the Air Force, 2 F-15Es and 2 F-16s. Additionally, 1 Air Force F-4G has been lost to non-battle damage. Turning to ground forces, the United States Army and Marine Corps continue to maintain a defensive posture within Saudi Arabia. Yesterday, Marine Central Command reported that a forward unit was receiving incoming rocket fire. A-6s and A-10s were dispatched. They attacked the Iraqi positions, and the rocket fire ceased. There were no U.S. casualties. There still has been no direct hostile confrontation on the ground. Ground forces continue to hone their combat skills and continue to conduct live-fire crew-served weapons training, tow gunnery, live-fire artillery training, and vehicle maintenance. The Navy is conducting combat air patrols in the Arabian Gulf and continues to provide surveillance, including Northern Arabian Gulf mine searches. Currently, 19 floating contact mines have been found. All have been found in the Northern Arabian Gulf, and all have been destroyed by coalition demolition teams. The Navy is also actively seeking, and if located, will attack Iraqi naval craft. Additionally, the Navy is continuing to enforce United Nations resolutions and sanctions through the maritime intercept operations. In the last 24 hours, there have been 2 intercepts for a total to date of 6,968. There were no boardings in the last 24 hours. Total boardings equal 830. Of these, 485 were conducted by United States forces, 322 by Allied naval forces, and 23 were multinational boardings. As can be expected, intercepts and boardings have fallen off dramatically since the beginning of Operation Desert Storm. Today, there were no reported launches of Iraqi surface-to-surface Scud missiles. This keeps the Iraqi surface-to-surface missile firing total at 11. Now I'd like to update you on the POW situation that was briefed yesterday. As you recall, the USS Nicholas and Army helicopters, together with an Kuwaiti patrol boat, engaged and neutralized Iraqi forces operating from 9 Kuwaiti oil platforms. It was reported that 12 Iraqis were taken prisoner. That number has increased to 23, as additional Iraqis and rubber rafts were picked up later. All but 5 of the prisoners of war have been transferred to the Marine Holding Facility. The 23 Iraqi POWs are the first POWs captured in Operation Desert Storm. In summation, in the last 24 hours, the United States has lost 3 aircraft to hostile fire. All 3 were United States Air Force. Additionally, one Army UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter was lost yesterday in a non-combat related accident. In the last 24 hours, the United States pilots have downed 15 Iraqi aircraft. As of today, in the last 24 hours, Iraqi pilots have downed 5 aircraft, and as of today, a total of 15 Iraqi aircraft have been destroyed in air-to-air combat. For those of you who didn't see last night's Department of Defense briefing, I'd like to bring you up to date on total United States forces operating in Desert Storm. The Army has approximately 250,000 deployed personnel, the Navy 75,000, the Marines 85,000, and the Air Force 50,000. This brings total United States commitment to approximately 460,000 deployed personnel. Ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you at this time. I'll be happy to take your questions. Yes, sir.
I'd like to know, in this incident where the prisoners were taken, were any Iraqis killed in that thing?
Yes, there were 5 Iraqis killed and 4 wounded.
Why wasn't that part of the report, or was it?
We didn't have that information yesterday. This is an update that just came in.
Are you saying to date, 8 U.S. planes have gone down?
There have been 9 United States planes that have been down due to hostile fire. 1 plane had mechanical problems and it was lost, an F-4G.
All of that?
There are 9, correction, there are 9 altogether. 8 due to hostile fire and 1 for mechanical problems.
All of the hostile fire was from the ground?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Greg, do you have any specifics you can give us on the surrender of these POWs?
The ones in connection with the oil platform?
Yeah, how did they turn themselves in?
Most of them abandoned the oil platform and were picked up in rubber boats and rubber rafts. Yes, ma'am.
Sir, earlier today, General Schwarzkopf mentioned plans to give Iraqis safe conduct passes to encourage them to desert or surrender. Can you explain to us how and when they would be given these passes?
Well, I really can't comment on what General Schwarzkopf said. We are encouraging, obviously, any type of surrender. We're encouraging the Iraqi forces to simply lay down their arms and come over to our side. We'd like to end this thing as peacefully as we can and not incur any more casualties than we have to. So we're encouraging any Iraqi soldiers to surrender.
Details on how these passes would be handed out?
I can't give you that at this time. I'll take your
Firing
question.
leaflets across the border?
I'll see you, sir.
You mentioned the Republican Guards. What can you tell us about your intelligence assessments of how much damage in detail is being done to the Republican Guards?
Well, the Republican Guards, as you well know, is a very capable and very potent military force. They have their best soldiers there, their best equipment. And as such, it's a priority target. We have a lot of priority targets. We continue to target those assets, and we strike them whenever possible. And we'll continue to strike those priority targets.
Damage you think you've done so far?
That'd be almost impossible to say. The damage assessment is always being evaluated. It's just too early to say right now.
Ask a question over here. The Saudi briefer earlier said that 3 to 5 Frog missiles were fired across the border last night, and now you say rockets were also fired. What's going on? Is there some new strategy that they're trying, or what?
The rockets that are referred to are the same. The Frog is a free rocket over ground. Those are the Frog rockets that he was referring to.
You know what's going on? Is this some new Iraqi tactic or strategy?
Oh, I don't think so. It looks like he's simply employing some of his assets. Those rockets impacted in Saudi Arabia. They caused no damage, simply into the desert.
So how do you explain that you had a relatively bad day in the air today, losing 3 aircraft in the last 24 hours, given what you've said repeatedly in terms of the damage you've caused to their air defenses?
I'd say we're looking at some of the most formidable air defenses ever encountered. They have terrific air-to-ground or air-to-air assets, both in their anti-aircraft artillery and their SAMs. We're neutralizing those. We're disrupting the command and control to those assets. In eliminating those assets, you can't get them all, and you're going to receive some losses. But I would think, and I'd like to say that the amount of destruction and the amount of damage that we're inflicting on Iraqi forces and Iraqi soldiers is tremendous.
As I understand it, Colonel, the number of sorties now is above 6,000. Is that
above 7,000?
Above 7,000, and your total losses, you said, were 9.
Well, our total losses are 8 due to hostile fire and 1 for mechanical.
I know it's theoretical, but if you had a training exercise in which you had that many planes flying, would it be unreasonable in your mind to have losses of 1/10 of 1% just in training accidents with no hostile fire?
I don't think you can equate training accidents to combat losses. It's simply something that can't be equated.
My point is that even with no hostile fire, this would not be regarded as a terribly high loss. Of course, every human life is precious, but compared to the number of missions flown, it's a very, very low ratio and much lower than the one that was predicted.
I agree. I think it's fantastic that of 7,000 sorties, that we've only had 8 aircraft and 1 due to mechanical problem. I think it's a fantastic record.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
can you tell me how the 10 MiG-29s were shot down? Which aircraft and with which weapons?
I can't go into which type of aircraft shot them down, but they were surface-to-air missiles, air-to-air missiles.
Sir, have there been any incidents of security breaches at any of the Allied military bases in Saudi Arabia? We're getting some unconfirmed reports of people being arrested, and we don't know if this is...
I have no information on that. I'll take your question and try to get back to you on it. Yes,
Iran said 2 American pilots were seen on Iraqi TV. What can you say about that?
I have no confirmation of that. However, I would hope that Iraq is a signatory of the Geneva Convention and they uphold that convention.
Sir, you made a list of targets of obvious military value. Would you include petroleum storage, tank farms, and refineries among those targets that you are now hitting?
We'll attack those targets that we feel are right now of high priority. And those targets that come about, we will engage those targets. I can't get into specifics what would be right now or what would not be right now. Sir.
Explain to us why the long-range missiles fired at Israel were not shot down, while the one shot at Saudi Arabia was shot down.
I simply can't comment on the ones that were fired towards Israel. The one that was shot towards Saudi Arabia was intercepted with a Patriot Battery 1 missile, and that 1 missile was successful, and it destroyed the incoming Scud missile. Yes.
When you say you have achieved air superiority, how can you say that when you don't know yet how many of the aircrafts are safe inside the shelters?
Well, first of all, I didn't say we've achieved air superiority.
The General was saying it this afternoon.
I didn't say we received air superiority. There are several different definitions of air superiority. We consider air superiority as when we have eliminated their air defense artillery assets and we've eliminated their aircraft from engaging ours.
So General Schwarzkopf made the first reference today to PSYOP, psychological operations being performed along the border. Can you give us any details of what kind of PSYOPs are being performed and what services are doing those?
No, sir, I can't get into psychological operations. That's a matter we simply can't discuss.
General Kelly yesterday talked about Iraqi warplanes flying back to the north and that American fighter planes would pursue them and attack them. Is that still the trend today, and are the losses that we see a result of U.S. warplanes flying into perhaps more heavily defended areas than were in the south?
Well, the Iraqi aircraft that have come up to engage our aircraft are being constantly shot down. So most of them are simply taking flight and running.
The northward trend is continuing?
That is correct.
Have you discovered how the unintentional launching of the Patriot missiles here in Riyadh happened?
There's an investigating team that's looking into that, and their findings haven't been made known yet. That's way in the back.
Are they safe?
Way in the back.
Can I have a follow-up? Are they considered safe if two have gone off? Yeah.
It is an extremely safe system.
Is the United States ruling out desalination plants in Kuwait as a potential military target, as the British forces have done?
Can you say it again, please?
I said, is the United States ruling out the desalination plants in Kuwait as a potential military target, as the British forces have done?
I can't comment on what the British forces have done. However, we won't get into specific targeting and what is not a target right now. I simply can't get into targeting. Yes, please.
Have the origin of these 19 mines which were destroyed been determined?
Have been, pardon me?
Have they been determined, the origin of these 19 mines, or are they the old mines?
The 19 mines that we have found and destroyed, we believed 14 of them are of Iraqi origin.
Are B-52s being used to strike the Republican Guard?
B-52s are being used to strike lots of priority targets, and they'll continue to be used. priority targets.
After 4 days of bombardment, what is your assessment of how or what degree of air superiority you have achieved?
I'd say we are definitely hurting his air defense assets. We see now where he has lost a lot of command and control to those assets. When our aircraft approach, he simply shoots everything he has up into the air. It's not controlled, it's not coordinated, and I think we're doing great damage to his air defense assets.
Okay, time for 2 more questions.
How has the weather been affecting the success rate of the bombing missions?
Well, obviously weather is a factor, as you well know. We have aircraft that are capable of operating in all types of weather, and the bombing is still being extremely effective.
Sir, a few minutes ago,
Please, let's let this gentleman have a chance. Yes, sir.
When do you think the time will come to initiate a land war? Do you think it's necessary to eliminate all air defensive system of Iraq in order to initiate a land war, or you're just waiting for Saddam to surrender under the heavy bombardment, as an effect of heavy bombardment?
There's a well laid out campaign plan to achieve the United Nations goals of getting Iraq out of Kuwait, and we will follow that plan as it unfolds.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I just have the circulation report for the week before the war started, so I don't think anybody's real interested.